And initial results are in from yesterday's New York City mayoral primary. State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani declared victory last night against former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary. New York uses ranked choice voting, so the official winner won't be known until next month. But assuming those preliminary results hold, Mamdani would have a tough battle ahead in the general election this November. Current mayor, you may remember, Eric Adams, he's still running, but as an independent, and Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa is also on the ballot. And Cuomo himself has not ruled out an independent run. So joining me now for all of this and more, White House correspondent for Semafor, Shelby Talcott, and NOTUS reporter, political reporter, Reese Gorman. Guys, thanks so much for being here. So much going on this week, so appreciate your time and reporting. Let's start with the New York race, because yesterday we were wondering how this would shake out. If you don't live in New York, you're wondering what this means for the Democrats. I mean, they were kind of using this to see kind of where the soul of the party was. Reese, I'm curious, what are Democrats taking away from this? Are they pulling anything out in terms of tea leaves for kind of the national political environment?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, Democrats especially, I mean, you've seen kind of Chuck Schumer, one of the top New York officials, Hakeem Jeffries, one of the top Democrat in the House, Chuck Schumer, top Democrat in the Senate, both from New York, both kind of came out, congratulated Mamdani, but without endorsing him. It's almost like they're kind of like staying away. And I mean, to their point, Republicans are hitting them so hard on this. I mean, NRSC has been hitting this. The NRCC has been hitting this. Republicans in general have kind of just been really kind of going at it, being like, oh, look, the face of the party is a Democratic socialist. Think of that when it comes to the midterms. And I mean, some Democrats are getting this. U.S. Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania said that basically that
a Democrat. People may forget sometimes.
that Christmas came early for the GOP. Christmas came in July. And so a lot of them are using this to be like, oh, now we can message and be like, Republicans so long have been socialism as this boogeyman for elections. And now they can point to someone who's on the cusp of becoming mayor of America's largest city is a Democratic socialist.
Yeah, it's kind of like Democrats need a face of their party, and Republicans love nothing more than a foil. So he kind of serves as something for that. I mean, Shelby, what was so striking to me, though, about his campaign was the way in which he was going everywhere on podcasts, doing videos. It kind of reminded me a little bit about how Trump's messaging communication strategy was, kind of reaching new audiences, new people, younger people. I'm curious kind of how Republicans are looking at this as well, or what Democrats can take away from that part of it.
Yeah, he took the Donald Trump approach. He went on all of these sort of alternative media formats, and that was really successful for the president in the 2024 election. Democrats took notice of that. He is a younger candidate who sort of was able to navigate this new media landscape in a way that Cuomo wasn't able to, or didn't want to, or didn't think he needed to. But Republicans are really excited about this because, as you said, this was largely seen as sort of a referendum on the Democratic Party on how they're going to be able to push back on the White House. And if you remember during the 2024 election, one of the big reasons that Donald Trump won was because a lot of voters felt that the Democratic Party no longer represented them, that they had gone too far to the left. And so in the White House's eyes, this is actually a really good thing for the Republican Party and something that they're going to be able to message on.
And speaking of some of those, avant-garde podcasts, remember Call Her Daddy? Well, bear with me for this transition. There could be one called Call Him Daddy, because at the NATO summit today, thank you.
Good segue.
At the NATO summit today, the NATO head, well, let's just play what he had to say.
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No?
But he
did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Okay, so the head of NATO called Trump daddy. We won't talk about that, but I think it's a great plug. But this is another segue to talk about Trump at NATO today. I mean, he's at NATO, but obviously Iran is top of mind. And as you both have been reporting on the Hill and at the White House, there are these competing pressures for the president. I mean, he's got the MAGA base that says, okay, limit what you're doing. Then he's got some of the hawks who are dwindling on the Hill, but still very vibrant. Shelby, I know you've been doing some reporting kind of about how he's working through all of this. I mean, today seemed pretty defiant when it came to those intelligence reports.
Right. And what's really interesting about all of this is sort of what this represents in terms of the president's foreign policy doctrine. And I think the big thing is that everybody in the Republican Party has a different idea. You talk to more isolationists who have argued that there are things that the president has done that lean more towards being an isolationist, America first standard. And then he does things like strike Iran, which sort of, makes the hawks a little bit more happy. And I think the reality is he's somewhere in the middle. He's really creating this unique foreign policy doctrine where his foreign policy doctrine is essentially America first, what is going to be good for America in his eyes. It does not necessarily fit into any neat little box. And so that's been something that the Republican Party is grappling with and almost arguing over the past few weeks amid all of these strikes.
Yeah, and while he's over there and coming back and dealing with all of this, I mean, his agenda is in the balance here. I mean, he's been able to do a lot through executive order, but what he wants to last legislatively has to be done through Congress. And since every lawmaker talks to you on the Hill, what do you think is going to happen here? I mean, the president wants this on his desk by July 4th. That's next Friday.
That's really bold. I've been surprised before, but I think it's going to be extremely tough. The Senate itself hasn't even agreed on what they're going to vote. I mean, July 4th is a week away on Friday. And so, like, the Senate hasn't even agreed to their framework, and we're already some of the proposals that are public, House members are already coming out against. I reported 16 kind of more moderate Republicans yesterday kind of said that if the Senate's Medicaid cuts that they're looking to do end up in the final bill, that they won't vote for it. You have Freedom Caucus Chairman Andy Harris telling me that he's not feeling promising about what's going on in the bill right now. And I was talking to him basically. I was like, is there anything Trump could do to get you over the line? I mean, he voted president. He didn't even vote for the House bill.
Right.
And he said basically, like, no. I mean, the best thing that could happen with Trump right now is for the Senate to send their bill over. And we just go to conference and we just conference the two bills, which basically just not voted on, just get in. But that takes weeks. That's not going to get by July 4th. So it's really in trouble to get done.
The president's going to be twisting some arms tomorrow, holding an event at the White House tomorrow. So we'll stay tuned. Reese and Shelby, thank you very much for your time reporting.